Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Today's grammar lesson comes from lesson 12, which is the discussion of possessive phrase. Before we do possessive phrase, I just want to review last week what we did. We did sifa and mawsuf. So sifa and mawsuf. Remember, both of these are nouns, and the second one is describing the first one. So kitabun kareem, for example. Kitabun kareemun. And the important thing is, if this is masculine, the describer or sifa is masculine. If this is singular, this is also singular. If this has a dhamma for the i'rab, this also has dhamma for i'rab. Okay, so you have to match everything for the first and second word, and then it becomes a descriptive ism. So sifa, mawsuf. Okay, what else did we discuss last week? So basically they're also, also if this is definite, this will also be definite. So again, those 4 lines represent the 4 things you have to match. So let's write them down. Number, gender, i'rab, and definiteness. Okay, so those are the things that you have to match. Okay, so again, this matching concept is very important to distinguish, because the next type of phrase that we'll discuss won't be matching. It will be very other specific rules. One thing that I didn't focus on last week, you can have multiple sifa for the same thing, right? Kitabun, kareemun, azim, and then all of them match. All of them match. Azim would match kareem, which would match kitab. So you do that. Or you can not just add them on like a chain, you can also have wow in the middle. But the wow doesn't break off your need to match. You still have to match everything. Okay? So wow, or you can just continue with the same thing. If you add a wow, technically it's not sifa and mawsuf, it's just sifa. But anytime you have sifa, you still have to match it with whatever it's describing. So we had, for example, if you have innaka antal alimul hakim, for example, you still have to match number, gender, and definiteness to a certain extent. I'rab has its own rules, because there's nothing that you're describing directly before alim or hakim. So it's not exactly this way, but you pretty much still match everything else. The only thing that you can kind of get away with is this i'rab, which has its own rules, right? So if you have wow, or if you have nothing, basically if you have no noun that you're describing immediately before the describing word, the i'rab may not match. That's all I'm gonna say. So inna Allaha alimun hakim. Okay, alimun hakim is describing Allah, but it's not a sifa mawsuf. Both of alimun hakim are both sifat, but it's not sifa mawsuf. So I want to make that distinction. Okay, because it's Allah is something and something. Not this is noble book, but that's not the book is noble. Book is noble. Noble is still a sifa, but it's different from noble book. Okay, so that's what I'm trying to say. That's one of the things I'm trying to say. So this is a sentence. This is just sifa mawsuf. So sifa mawsuf, you match everything perfectly. Sentence, yeah, you'll see some of the things match, some of the things don't match. Okay. Specifically, also this doesn't match all the time either. So all 4 of these for this particular sifa mawsuf. So it's a phrase. Okay, it's a phrase. It can have more than 2 words though. More than 2 words are possible. Now we do possessive phrase. Okay, idafa. So instead of the second word describing the first word, the second word owns the first word. Okay, and ownership is not always the best way to translate. Sometimes you translate it as of. This is the most general that I can think of, right? Book of the teacher. Yeah, the same thing as teacher's book. Ghaibus samawa, unseen of the heavens. Same thing as heavens unseen. But there's a reason I prefer you to use of, because sometimes it's not ownership, like in English you imagine ownership. Okay, and I'll give you an example when we do the example, inshallah. So second word owning the first word, whereas sifa mawsuf is second word describing the first word. So I'rab of the descriptive phrase, I kind of reviewed that already, but I just want to remind you. I'rab matches. I'rab matches. I'rab for idafa, they don't match. Completely don't match. The last word may take tanween. Okay, so if it's usually, again, I'll have the examples as 2 words. But if it's more than 2 words, the last word will may take tanween. Why am I saying that? Because none of the other ones can take double. The first word won't take double. If there's a second word and a third word, the second one won't take double. Only the last one will take a double tanween. May. So far we have not seen any that actually even take tanween. Ghaibus samawati doesn't take tanween because it has alif lam. Okay? Again, remember, anything that is possessed is definite by definition. That is why it doesn't take tanween. Do you understand why it doesn't take tanween? Because what are the rules for definiteness? Alif lam makes it definite. Also, idafa makes it definite. If it's owned by something, it's definite. And definite nouns don't take tanween. That's another thing I didn't emphasize earlier. But the easy way to do definite and indefinite, if it has a tanween, it's indefinite, always. Sometimes even still it's not tanween. But, okay? So this can't take tanween because it's definite. This may be indefinite and could take tanween, but usually it still doesn't. So usually you'll see all of them being definite words. This will not take alif lam because you cannot have 2 definiteness one on top of the other. Okay? So this will just be definite because owned, not definite because of the alif lam. It won't ever take alif lam. So no alif lam either. Okay? The last word may take tanween. Also, all the words after the first take a kasra. So what is the first rule we learned for kasra? After harf jar, you take a kasra. Fis samawati. Fi, after fi, samawati. Ala waladin. On the boy, waladin takes a kasra. Again, if you are owning something, so after the first word, everything takes a kasra. Okay? Basically, we are talking about 2. So the second word takes a kasra. Basically, if you talk about 2 word idafa. And the last thing I want to give is that idafa is translated as of, but it also is used in some other context. For example, ghayrullahi, other than Allah. Okay, other than Allah. So sometimes it's translated as then, but 99% of the time it is translated as of. Now, let me give you some examples before we end. So, adhabin nari, min adhabin nari. Okay, min adhabin an-nar. Okay, so I'm going to ask you a few questions. Let's ask ourselves a few questions. Is min part of the idafa? No. The idafa is adhabin nari. Why does this have kasra? Because of min, not because of the rules for idafa. Why does this have kasra? Because of the idafa. Why does is this definite or indefinite? Definite, because even though it does not have alif lam, it cannot have alif lam. Because the first word of idafa, it won't have alif lam, but it's definite. That's why it has no tanween. Why does this not have tanween? Because it's definite, alif lam. Okay, so I know that was very confusing, but that's how detailed idafa is. You have to go over everything, make sure you understand all the rules, because not all of them are that simple. How about jaza'u sayyi'atin? Jaza'u sayyi'atin. Jaza'u sayyi'atin. Why does this have a dhamma? Well, we didn't cover that yet. Why does it have only what? Why does it not have tanween? It's definite. Why is it definite? Because of the idafa. It's being owned by sayyi'atin. Jaza'u sayyi'atin means reward, or sorry, recompense of a sin. So it's being owned by sin, makes it definite. It cannot take alif lam though, okay, because it's already definite. That's why it's singular, no tanween, because it's definite, owned by sayyid. Is sayyidatin definite? No, that's why it has tanween. Okay, it's not being owned by anything. It's doing the owning, but it's not being owned by anything. So again, this is not really ownership. Also, that's why I wrote this example. You don't think, oh, sin is owning recompense, but that's how it's translated with the al. So you make it idafa. Okay. We had another very interesting one. Let me write it up here. In today's lesson, asma anbi'uni bi asma'i ha'ula'i. Bi asma'i ha'ula'i. Okay, so anbi'uni, inform me of the names of these. Okay? Why does this have a kasra? Because of the B, not because of the idafa. But this two words together make a idafa. Okay? But the first word of idafa, kasra doesn't matter. But the kasra is there because of the B. Why does this have a kasra? That is because of the idafa. Okay? It's owning the asma. Names of these. Okay? Now, is this definite? Yes, because it is a ism, but it's a demonstrative pronoun. Okay? So ha'ulai. So you can have idafa with pronouns as well. So I mean, kitabukum is a idafa. We just translate it as your books, but it's actually books of yours, or it's a idafa. Okay? Let's do a 3-word example just to illustrate everything. Kitabu muallimi al-madrasa. Okay, book of the teacher of the school. So this will have a kasra, this will also have a kasra, and this is being owned by the school, so you cannot put an alif lam, even if you're trying to say the teacher. Okay, even if it's the teacher, you don't put an alif lam there. Okay, because it's being owned by the school. Book is being owned by teacher, teacher is owned by school. Book of teacher of school. So kitabu muallimil madrasati. Book of teacher of school.
Why muallimi? Because book is owned by teacher.
Right. So again, the rule is all the words after the first one take a kasra.
That's for the idafa.
For the idafa, all the words after the first one have to take a kasra, because all of them are owning something. If you're after the first word, you're owning something. If you own something, you take a kasra. You take this bag to hold your possessions. Okay? So you own everything after the first word is owning something. The first word is definite without alif lam. So this is also definite without alif lam. Only the last one can have alif lam, because both of these are being owned, so they're already definite. No alif lam. Okay? So even if you say the, remember, these are already definite, so you don't put an alif lam except on the last word, because that's not being owned. I'm repeating these things a lot of times.
In the above case, the reason they took kasra was because of the preposition.
This one, so in here,
because of B.
Asma took a kasra because of B.
Because of B.
Because this, you don't need a kasra there, but it has to have.
If there was no B, then asma would have.
Yeah. And then ha'ulai is already definite. That's why there's no tanween, etc. Yeah, so you can try to reason through all these idafa, go through the ayahs that we've been studying, and try to find the idafa, inshallah, and try to understand all these rules. Okay? So I'll answer questions afterwards, inshallah. Subhanakallahumma bihamdik, nashhadu an la ilaha illa ant, nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk.